A soaked little girl ran into the office of Chicago's most feared Mafia King and cried, "Please save my mother." The moment she said her mother's name, the coldest man in the city went pale, because she was the woman who vanished years ago carrying his secret. He launched a war to get her back, but when the truth came out, everything he built was about to collapse. Rain hit Chicago like a warning that night. Sheets of cold water crashed against the black glass walls of the Vail Tower, where the city's richest gamblers lost fortunes above the skyline and the city's most dangerous secrets were buried below it. On the top private level, hidden behind biometric doors and silent steel elevators, Adrian Vale ruled his empire from a casino lounge reserved only for power. No cameras, no outsiders, no mistakes. Inside, velvet shadows stretched across polished marble floors. Men in tailored suits moved carefully, speaking in low whisper tones, while dealers handled cards worth more than most homes. Armed guards stood at every entrance, hands folded, eyes sharp. No one smiled when Adrian Vale was present. At the center of the room, he sat alone. Adrian Vale was 36, broad-shouldered, immaculately dressed in a black suit cut like armor. His face was sharp, unreadable, almost too calm. Dark eyes watched the room with the stillness of a predator that never needed to chase. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He simply existed, and men obeyed. To the city, he was a billionaire investor. To Chicago, he was the king. A man whose power reached judges, ports, banks, elections, and graves. Tonight he held a crystal glass in one hand and silence in the other. Then the elevator alarm screamed. Every head snapped toward the private entrance. One guard reached for his weapon. Another barked orders into an earpiece. The steel door slid open, and chaos ran out in the shape of a child. A little girl burst into the room barefoot and drenched from the storm. She couldn't have been older than 7. Her yellow raincoat clung to her tiny frame, soaked through and streaked with mud. Wet curls stuck to her pale cheeks. Her breath came in broken gasps, heart pounding so visibly beneath the thin coat that even hardened men noticed. She was shaking from cold, fear, and exhaustion, but her eyes were fearless, huge blue eyes burning with desperation. She slipped on the marble, caught herself, then ran straight past armed guards who seemed too stunned to stop her. "Please," she cried. "Please save my mother." The room froze. No one entered Adrian Vale's territory uninvited. Adults with money waited months for an audience. Politicians requested meetings through 3 layers of permission. Rivals disappeared for crossing the wrong door. Yet this small girl had stormed into the devil's office screaming. A guard moved toward her. Adrian raised one finger. The guard stopped instantly. The child stood in the center of the lounge, soaked and trembling, staring directly at the most feared man in Chicago. "What is your name?" Adrian asked. His voice was low, controlled, colder than the rain outside. "Emma Carter." The surname meant nothing to most men in the room. Then she added 3 words that changed the air. "My mother, Olivia Carter." Adrian did not move, but his breath stopped. The glass in his hand remained perfectly still, yet every man near him felt the shift like thunder under the floor. Olivia Carter, a name buried for years. A woman once whispered about in the shadows of the empire. Brilliant, loyal, beautiful. The only person who had ever spoken to Adrian Vale without fear. Then one night she vanished after betrayal tore through his inner circle. Some said she ran. Some said she was dead. No one dared speak her name now, until a child carried it into his kingdom. Emma took one shaky step closer. "They took her," she whispered. "Men in suits. They said she should have stayed hidden." For the first time in years, emotion cracked across Adrian's face. Not weakness. Danger. He rose slowly from his chair. Every guard straightened. Dealers stepped back. Even veteran captains lowered their eyes. When Adrian Vale stood in silence, cities suffered. He walked toward the girl and knelt to her height. Rainwater dripped from her sleeves onto his $1,000 shoes. No one breathed. "Did they hurt you?" he asked. Emma shook her head. "I ran." Something fierce and ancient moved behind Adrian's eyes. He stood again, pulled a secure phone from inside his jacket, and made one silent call. He listened for 2 seconds, then ended it. Every man in the room knew someone was about to fall. Adrian looked toward the storm-dark skyline and spoke only 3 words. "Find her now." Miles from the glittering towers of downtown Chicago, where wealth hid behind glass and politics wore expensive smiles, An abandoned warehouse crouched beside the river like something forgotten on purpose. Its broken windows rattled in the storm. Inside, rusted beams and hanging chains cast long shadows across cracked concrete. Rainwater leaked through holes in the roof, dripping into metal buckets with slow hollow taps. The place smelled of dust, oil, and old fay. Olivia Carter sat tied to a steel chair in the center of the room. Her wrists were bound with industrial restraints. A bruise darkened one cheek. Rain had dampened loose strands of chestnut hair that framed a face still striking despite exhaustion. She wore a flour-stained sweater beneath a torn coat, the clothes of a woman dragged from ordinary life into hidden violence. Yet nothing about her posture looked broken. Her back remained straight. Her chin stayed lifted. The men watching her noticed it and hated it. Marcus Kane's crew filled the warehouse edges. Loan sharks, collectors, street predators dressed in cheap suits trying to imitate power. They had taken bakery owners, shopkeepers, and desperate men before. Most begged by now. Olivia only stared back. She was not weak. When they came for her bakery that morning demanding ownership papers, she had fought them alone with whatever was near. Hot coffee, steel trays, locked doors. She bought seconds with courage because seconds were enough for one thing. Emma, her daughter, had escaped through the rear kitchen alley while men shouted and glass shattered. That memory was the only thing keeping Olivia steady now. Please run, baby. Keep running. Marcus Kane stepped from the shadows with the confidence of a man who believed cruelty was intelligence. Mid-40s, expensive watch, slick-back hair, smile too polished to be trusted. He ran half the neighborhood debt traps and dreamed of becoming more dangerous than he truly was. He crouched in front of Olivia. "You could have signed papers," he said lightly. "Now the bakery is closed in your hay." It was never about the bakery. His smile widened. Smart woman. Marcus wanted something far older than a storefront. Olivia Carter knew names, roots, and financial channels from another life. Years ago, before she needed dough before dawn and packed school lunches, she had stood beside Adrian Vale while he was still rising. She knew which men betrayed him, which captains sold loyalty, which judges were bought before the empire became untouchable. And men like Marcus sold information the way others sold bread. "She'll never be part of your world," Olivia said quietly. Marcus tilted his head. "Who?" "You know who." "Adrian." Even speaking him inside her own mind still changed her breath. There had been a time when Adrian Vale was not yet the king, only a brilliant, dangerous man who laughed rarely and trusted almost no one. Yet he trusted her. He had shown her pieces of himself no city ever saw. Then came betrayal. A syndicate war tore through allies, homes, and futures. Names leaked. Friends vanished. Adrian grew colder by the week. Enemies circled everyone he loved. So Olivia left before the storm reached the child growing inside her. She disappeared to protect what mattered most. She never told him about Emma. Marcus stewed and paced slowly around her chair. "Adrian's enemies would pay beautifully for you," he murmured. "Especially if they learn you gave the great king a daughter he never knew existed." Olivia's pulse jumped once. He noticed. Danger sharpened the room instantly. "You won't touch her." "Oh, I won't need to." He leaned close, voice dropping to a whisper. "Children are leverage. Mothers are invitations." Olivia jerked against the restraints with sudden force, steel scraping concrete. "Stay away from Emma." There it was. Fire. Marcus laughed softly. "There's the woman they warned me about." She stopped struggling and steadied herself again. No tears. No begging. She was not a victim. She whispered Emma's name under her breath, hoping the storm had hidden her small footsteps, hoping some stranger had opened one kind door, hoping her daughter was safe somewhere beyond this river wrought in greed. Then headlights flashed through the broken windows. Engines approached. Warehouse doors groaned open. Cold rain and city lights spilled inside. Marcus Kane smiled at Olivia like a man opening a gift wrapped in ruin. "Your past finally found you." Chicago felt it before sunrise. Not through headlines or sirens, but through silence breaking in places that usually obeyed routine. Traffic cameras blinked out across 3 districts. Cargo manifests vanished from port systems. Police scanners filled with static and false routes. Private toll gates locked without warning. Bridges slowed. Streets narrowed under black convoys moving with purpose. Adrian Vale had gone to war. For years he had ruled through restraint, letting money speak louder than bullets, letting contracts replace chaos. Rivals had grown comfortable inside that version of him. They called him civilized now. Predictable. Softened by time. By dawn, those rivals were burning phones. Because every old name understood the meaning of moving black SUVs. The devil was active again. Inside Vale Tower, the private casino had transformed into a command center of polished panic. Men in dark suits crossed marble floors carrying tablets, encrypted phones, route maps. Screens showed shipping lanes, city grids, security feeds, financial freezes. Captains waited for orders with the rigid stillness of soldiers who knew mistakes were expensive. At the center of it all stood Adrian. He wore the same black suit as earlier, but now even the air around him felt sharper. One hand rested in his pocket while the other moved pieces across the city with a few quiet words. Close the South Docks. Freeze Kane's lenders. Pull favors from District 9. Anyone sheltering Marcus loses business by noon. No raised voice. No wasted movement. Pure control. Then he turned away from everyone and walked into the private lounge where Emma Carter sat wrapped in a cashmere blanket far too large for her small shoulders. The contrast stunned his men. The king who could choke an empire before breakfast lowered himself onto one knee beside a child. Emma held a mug of hot chocolate in both hands. Her wet curls had dried into soft rings around her face. She still trembled sometimes, but her eyes remained brave. The same eyes. Adrian noticed again. Blue-gray, bright at the edges, stubborn in the center. Olivia's eyes. What color was the van? He asked gently. White, Emma whispered. Dainty on one side. How many men? 3. One talked too much. A few guards near the doorway exchanged glances. They had never heard Adrian use that tone. No threat. No ice. Just patience. Did your mother say anything before they took her? Emma nodded. She said run to the tall building with the lion statue and ask for Adrian. His breath caught once. Olivia remembered. After all these years, after disappearing without explanation, she still trusted him in the final second. Heart pounding harder than any street war ever caused, Adrian kept his face unreadable. Did your mother ever talk about me before tonight? Emma frowned in thought. Sometimes when she was sad. She looked up. She said there was once a man who scared everyone except her. Several men in the doorway looked away to hide shock. Adrian almost smiled. Almost. Then Emma studied his face with the blunt honesty only children possess. Why do you look like me? The room stopped breathing. Even distant keyboards seemed to fall silent. Adrian held her gaze. Beneath the fear, beneath the urgency, beneath the war rising outside, a possibility he had never allowed himself entered like lightning. The dates. Olivia's disappearance. Emma's age. Those eyes. Mine. Something ancient and possessive moved through him so violently he had to stand. No one touches what is mine. He crossed to the window overlooking Chicago as dawn bled over steel towers. The city below belonged to systems, money, and reputation. But for the first time in years, Adrian wanted none of it as much as one woman and one child returned alive. Double security on her, he said without tanning. No one enters this floor without my word. A captain nodded instantly. Yes, say. And Marcus Kane. Adrian's reflection in the glass looked like war itself. Teach the city what happens when loyalty is sold. Behind him, Emma quietly sipped chocolate, unaware she had just changed the strongest man in Chicago. An assistant entered moments later carrying a sealed archive folder recovered from old private records. Hands suddenly less steady than he liked, Adrian opened it. Inside lay a preserved DNA file dated 7 years earlier. His name was already on the cover. The storm reached its worst just after midnight. Rain hammered the warehouse district in violent sheets, turning alleys into rivers of oil and neon reflection. Thunder rolled over the river while black SUVs tore through empty streets, engines growling like released animals. Headlights cut the darkness in sharp white lines. At the center vehicle sat Adrian Vale. No driver tonight. He held the wheel himself. Chicago had seen his orders before. It had not seen him move personally in years. King sent men. King stayed protected. But this was not business. This was mine. The convoy skidded to a halt outside the abandoned warehouse. Rusted doors, broken windows, bad ground, too many blind angles. Adrian stepped out into the rain. Black coat soaked instantly, expression colder than the weather. His captains moved beside him. Perimeter locked. Back exit covered. Signals jammed. Adrian looked at the building once. No delays. Then he walked forward. Inside, Marcus Kane's guards barely had time to react before veiled men flooded the structure with precise force. Smoke canisters rolled across concrete. Alarms screamed from damaged panels. Lights burst and flickered. Orders collided with thunder. Shadows ran in every direction. The warehouse became chaos. Olivia jerked upright in the steel chair. From the center room she heard shouting, boots, metal crashing, men yelling names she didn't recognize. Her first thought was worse than Faye. Another enemy. Marcus had sold her already. She pulled hard against restraints, breath short, wrists burning, trying to reach anything sharp enough to cut free. If strangers entered first, she would bargain, lie, claw, run, anything to stay alive long enough to see Emma again. Smoke spilled beneath the door. Then silence. A terrible, heavy silence. The lock snapped. The door opened slowly through gray haze. A tall figure stepped inside. Black coat, broad shoulders, rain dripping from dark hair, eyes like midnight sharpened by old pain. Adrian Vale entered through smoke like a ghost king returning for what was taken. For one suspended second, neither moved. Years vanished and returned at once. Olivia saw the man she had loved, the empire he had become, and every reason she ran. Adrian saw the woman who disappeared with his trust, carrying secrets he never understood. Fear and relief collided so hard inside her she almost laughed. Adrian. Her voice broke on his name. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees before the chair. His hands moved to the restraints, then stopped for half a second. They were trembling. No one in Chicago had ever seen Adrian Vale's hands shake. "Your hate," he said quietly. "I'm alive." "Not enough." He tore the locks loose with tools from his coat and caught her wrists carefully, as if even steel marks offended him. When the final restraint fell, Olivia swayed forward from exhaustion. He caught her instantly. Close. Too close after too many years. Her breath touched his throat. His jaw tightened. "Emma," she whispered. "Safe." The word shattered what little control she had left. Tears came without permission. Adrian looked away from them, then lifted her into his arms before she could protest. "You still give orders," she murmured weakly. "You still disobey." Despite everything, something like life flickered between them. He carried her through the warehouse while chaos still echoed beyond side corridors. Veiled men secured exits, dragged captured guards aside, checked corners, moved with disciplined loyalty. Rain blew through shattered loading doors. Concrete glistened dark beneath flashing lights. Marcus Kane was nowhere. A captain approached. "Boss." Kane used the drainage route. Adrian's expression turned lethal. "Then run it to the end." He never slowed carrying Olivia. Outside, storm winds hit them full force. She buried her face briefly against his shoulder, remembering this scent of rain and cedar she had tried to forget. The city's most feared man held her like something breakable and priceless. Mine. At the mansion, doors opened before they arrived. Staff lined halls in shocked silence. Upstairs, small footsteps pounded across marble. Emma ran into the room. "Mon." Olivia slid from Adrian's arms just in time to catch her daughter. They collapsed together, clinging, crying, laughing through tears. Emma kept touching her mother's face as if checking reality. Adrian stood a few feet away, watching like a man seeing sunlight after years underground. Olivia looked up at him over Emma's curls. Then she whispered the one sentence that stopped even his breath. "Emma is yours." By sunrise, Olivia Carter and Emma no longer belonged to the streets. They were moved into Adrian Vale's private mansion overlooking Lake Michigan, a fortress of black stone, iron gates, and silent cameras hidden beneath ivy and luxury. The estate was designed to feel elegant, but everything about it whispered the same truth. Nothing entered without permission. Nothing left unnoticed. To Adrian, it was security. To Olivia, it was another cage. She refused the guest suite prepared for her. She rejected silk robes, private staff, expensive meals, and every polished kindness that came with his name. Instead, she chose the smallest room connected to Emma's, kept her own clothes, and insisted on making tea herself in a kitchen larger than her old bakery. Adrian watched this resistance with unreadable patience. Then he installed guards on every corridor, 2 at the front gate, 2 at the garden wall, rotations outside Emma's wing, additional men on the roofline by nightfall. "You don't need soldiers to guard a child," Olivia said coldly. "I need them to protect what is mine." She is not property. No, Adrian replied, eyes fixed on Emma laughing in the garden. She is priority. The answer unsettled her more than anger would have. Their days became a battlefield of smaller wars. Olivia challenged every rule. Adrian overruled every risk. She wanted normal school schedules, open walks, sunlight without escorts. He wanted controlled routes, secure vehicles, verified teachers, and cameras in every blind corner. You can't control everything, she snapped one evening. I can control enough. You sound the same as before. His jaw tightened. Before, I lost you. Silence struck harder than shouting. Emma, unaware of the history burning between them, adapted instantly. Children recognize truth faster than adults. She ran to Adrian without hesitation, dragged him into drawing games, asked impossible questions over breakfast, and treated the feared king of Chicago as if he had always belonged there. The mansion staff nearly fainted the first morning she placed a paper crown on his head. Adrian wore it for 7 full minutes. The empire changed quietly after that. He learned bedtime stories, reading slowly at first as if contracts had prepared him for many things except dragons and talking rabbits. He learned Emma liked strawberries cut into stars, pancakes shaped like moons, and music played softly while she brushed her hair. He memorized the exact way she needed blankets tucked under her feet. He learned father instincts no one had taught him. Olivia watched from doorways, confused by the tenderness. This was the man cities feared. The man rivals called ruthless. The man who once measured affection like weakness. Yet Emma climbed into his lap during meetings and stole pens from his jacket pocket, while captains pretended not to smile. The child softened stone. Some nights Olivia found Adrian asleep in the library armchair. Emma curled against his chest, both breathing in the same rhythm. In those moments, fear lost ground to something more dangerous. Hope and unresolved love. The quiet moments became harder to survive than the arguments. Passing each other in hallways too close. Shared hands reaching for the same mug. Late-night strategy talks turning personal without warning. Rain against windows while old memories stood between them. Once, while fixing a loose button on Emma's coat, Olivia looked up and found Adrian already watching her. Heart pounding. She stepped back first. He noticed. Always. But Olivia knew softness could not erase reality. Marcus Kane had escaped. Adrian's enemies now knew where to strike hardest. The child laughing in gardens was leverage to every predator outside the gates. Peace here was temporary. That night, wind moved through the trees like a warning. Guards rotated at midnight. Cameras swept the perimeter. Olivia could not sleep. Then alarms exploded across the estate. Footsteps thundered in the corridor. Doors opened. Radios hissed. Adrian was already outside her room when she reached the hall. What happened? She demanded. His face had gone cold enough to freeze the air. A captain answered instead, voice shaken. One of our men was found dead, inside the mansion gates. The mansion did not sleep after the body was found. By dawn, every corridor had been swept twice, every camera reviewed, every servant questioned, every gate locked under triple code. The elegant calm of Adrian Vale's estate vanished beneath steel discipline. Men moved faster, spoke less, and watched one another too carefully. Because the dead guard meant only one thing. Someone inside had opened the door. Adrian stood in the central security room before a wall of glowing screens, hands behind his back, face carved from ice. Chicago feared him in war, but his inner circle feared him more in silence. Names, he said. No one delayed. Schedules, access logs, route changes, coded entries, all flowed across monitors while captains gave reports in clipped voices. Yet Adrian's eyes settled on one file longer than the rest. Victor Sloan, trusted underboss. 15 years inside the empire. Keeper of finances, old roots, and sensitive alliances. The man who knew where bones were buried and which judges prayed to stay hidden. Loyal on paper. Danger in memory. When Olivia heard the name, something cold moved through her chest. She remembered Victor from the early days, before Adrian became untouchable. Victor had always smiled too smoothly, spoken too carefully, and watched Adrian with the hunger of a man standing beside a throne he believed he deserved. While others respected Adrian's rise, Victor resented it. Power had never been enough for him unless it was stolen. He hated you, Olivia said quietly. Adrian did not look at her. Many men do. He hated that people chose you willingly. That earned his attention. Before more could be said, Emma appeared in the doorway clutching her stuffed rabbit, hair still messy from sleep. She should have been upstairs, safe from adult storms. But children heard what walls could not hide. "Why is everyone scared?" she asked. The room softened for 1 second. Adrian crossed to her and knelt. "Because adults sometimes forget loyalty." Emma frowned in thought. "Like the man in the garden." Every head turned. "What man?" Adrian asked. "The one last night," she said innocently. "He said soon this house will belong to someone smarter." Olivia's breath caught. "Victor." He had spoken near the child, believing no one listened. Adrian rose slowly, and the room changed temperature. "Seal the grounds," he ordered. "Now." Men ran. Too late. Emma's room upstairs was empty within minutes. Window closed. Door untouched. Security feed looped for 9 minutes. No forced entry. No struggle. Only precision. Victor Sloan had taken her from inside the safest house in Chicago. Olivia collapsed against the hallway wall as fear tore through her body. "This is my fault. I brought danger here. I should have kept running." Adrian gripped her shoulders, forcing her eyes to his. "No." His voice was low, absolute. "This is betrayal. It belongs to him." For one raw second, grief flashed beneath his control. Then it vanished under something far worse. War. He turned and began issuing orders with terrifying calm. All Sloan accounts frozen. Every warehouse raided. Cut district power grids. Shut bridges southbound. No signal leaves the city unsearched. Chicago darkened by noon. Traffic systems failed. Private banks locked. Street lights across 3 neighborhoods died at once. Rival crews vanished indoors. News channels called it cyber sabotage. Everyone else knew better. The king had blacked out his own city. Men who had mocked Adrian now volunteered information just to stay invisible. Old allies reappeared with maps. Port captains offered manifests. Police commanders suddenly became cooperative. That was Adrian's real empire. Fear converted into obedience. Olivia watched from the command room, shaking, while screens filled with search grids and satellite routes. The man beside her was not the softened father who read bedtime stories. He was the force that built Chicago's shadow map, and he would tear it apart for one child. Hours later, a secure phone buzzed on the steel table. No one moved until Adrian answered and opened the message. A photo loaded on screen. Emma sat tied to a chair, wide-eyed but brave, clutching her rabbit. Victor's text beneath it was only one sentence. "Trade the throne, or lose the heir." The war room expected Olivia Carter to break. Instead, she stood straighter. Screens glowed with maps, surveillance grids, and strike teams moving across Chicago under Adrian Vale's command. Captains rushed in and out carrying updates. Men with weapons waited for permission to storm half the city. Everyone assumed Olivia would remain hidden behind armored doors while the king reclaimed his heir. They did not know her. "I'm going," she said. Adrian looked up slowly from the central table. "No, that child knows my voice before yours. She knows both. She needs me first." His jaw hardened. "You are safer here." Olivia stepped closer, heart pounding but steady. "Safe has never been where you place me. Safe is where Emma breathes." Silence cut through the room. Adrian's captains shifted uneasily. No one challenged him in front of his men. No one except the woman who once left him and still carried the power to shake his control. "I know Victor," Olivia continued. "I know the old tunnels, the safe houses, the dead roots he kept hidden from you because he was preparing for betrayal years ago." That landed. Even Adrian had not known all of Victor Sloan's private shadows. She moved to the city map and pointed 3 locations in quick succession. "He won't stay in towers or ports. He'll choose somewhere he thinks your army is too loud to notice. He always trusted forgotten places." Adrian watched her with something deeper than anger now. Recognition. "You remembered all this. I survived all this." Then she met his eyes without fear. She was not a victim, she said softly, meaning herself, meaning every year he misunderstood. The room stilled. Adrian dismissed everyone with one gesture. When they were alone, he stepped close enough that the map light cut sharp lines across his face. "If you go alone, I may not reach you. If I wait, Emma pays for your caution." His hand rose, stopped near her cheek, then lowered. "You still do whatever you want." "No," Olivia whispered. "Only when it matters." He exhaled once. Take the West Tunnel team. Hidden route only. I said alone. His eyes darkened. You ask too much. I'm asking trust. That word hit harder than any threat. 20 minutes later, Olivia moved through abandoned transit tunnels beneath the city with only a flashlight, old memory, and a mother's focus. She bypassed Victor's outer lookouts by using maintenance shafts no current map carried. She entered the compound through a forgotten boiler corridor once used by smugglers before Adrian's rise. Inside, voices echoed above. Victor had chosen an old printing warehouse, empty except for men who believed a frightened woman would never come hunting them. They were wrong. Olivia triggered a breaker panel, killing lights across 2 floors. In the confusion, she crossed shadowed catwalks, unlocked side doors, and reached the office where Emma sat tied to a chair clutching her rabbit. Mom, I'm here. She freed her in seconds and hid her inside a service cabinet lined with paper rolls. Count to 50. Then follow my voice. Footsteps approached. Victor Sloan entered smiling into darkness. I knew you'd come. You never understood me, Olivia said. I understood desire. Adrian had the throne. I had patience. He raised a weapon. Olivia fired first. The sound cracked through the warehouse. Victor staggered backward, shock replacing arrogance. At that exact moment, steel doors below burst open as Adrian's men flooded the building. The king himself climbed the stairs through smoke and alarms, then stopped cold at the sight before him. Olivia standing tall. Victor fallen. Emma running into her arms. She became powerful. Adrian saw it completely then. Not the woman he once tried to protect, not the memory he mourned, but the true queen who could stand beside him and never behind him. He crossed the room and pulled Emma close with one arm, Olivia with the other. Victor laughed weakly from the floor, blood on his lips and poison in his smile. You still have one more enemy. Victor Sloan died smiling, but his final words lived longer than his breath. One more enemy. Back at Vale Tower, Adrian needed only an hour to uncover the truth. Every payment Victor hid, every false company Marcus King used, every legal shield protecting street predators led upward to one polished name the public trusted. Senator Daniel Mesa, Chicago's smiling reformer. He had funded Marcus, protected Victor, and quietly fed Adrian's enemies for years while preaching law on television. He wanted the underworld weakened, divided, desperate enough to buy political salvation from him. Power dressed as virtue. Adrian stood in his private office overlooking the city as dawn approached. Olivia beside him, Emma asleep in a nearby suite after finally crying herself into peace. You can expose him publicly, Olivia said. No, Adrian replied. Public men survive scandal. He lifted his secure phone. One call, he said softly, is cleaner. Within minutes, Mercer's offshore accounts froze. Federal warrants triggered from evidence Adrian had preserved for years. Media leaks landed simultaneously in 5 newsrooms. 2 judges resigned before breakfast. 3 lobbyists vanished into airports. By noon, Mercer was escorted from his own office while cameras shouted questions no one would answer. Marcus King's lenders collapsed with him. Victor's remaining crews surrendered for protection. Enemies disappeared so quickly the city pretended they had never existed. That was Adrian's real gift. He did not destroy people. He removed the ground beneath them. By evening, Vale Tower hosted a gathering unlike any in years. Captains, business allies, neighborhood leaders, old guards, and cautious rivals arrived in formal silence. They expected celebration. They came to witness succession. At the center hall, beneath crystal light and black marble columns, Adrian entered not alone. Olivia walked beside him. No hiding. No secret wing. No shadows. She wore a deep midnight gown, elegant and sharp, her hair loose over one shoulder, confidence brighter than diamonds. The room felt her presence instantly. Not as guest. Not as rescued woman. As queen. Whispers moved like wind. She returned. He chose her publicly. The empire has changed. Adrian welcomed every stay. Then Emma ran into the hall in white shoes and a silver ribbon, fearless as ever, dragging a stunned etiquette tutor behind her. Laughter escaped the room before anyone could stop it. Adrian lifted her into his arms. This city respects bloodlines, he said, voice carrying through the chamber. So hear me clearly. Emma Vale is my daughter and rightful heir to everything I build. Shock turned into applause, then into something rarer. Loyalty. Not demanded. Given. Olivia looked at Adrian with emotions too layered for easy names. Years ago, he had offered possession, plans, protection built like chains. Tonight, he turned to her before the entire room and spoke low enough that only she heard. You owe me nothing. Then louder. If you want freedom, it is yours. If you stay, it will be by choice. The hall went silent again. This mattered more than the air, more than politics. The king was releasing control. Olivia stepped close, placed one hand over his heart, and smiled the smile he had lost years ago. This time, she whispered, I choose you. For once, Adrian Vale looked shaken. The mansion changed after that. Security remained, but cameras disappeared from private gardens. Locked wings opened into family rooms. Staff laughed openly. Emma's drawings covered refrigerators worth more than cars. Olivia reopened her bakery with Vale funding and her own name above the door. Adrian still ruled the city's hidden networks, but stronger now because he had something no enemy could buy. Something to protect. Home. Late that night, after music faded and guests departed, the three of them sat together by the library fire. Emma between them, half asleep, holding both their hands. Warmth, power, peace. Then a butler entered carrying a sealed envelope on a silver tray. No sender, no return mark, only 5 words written in elegant black ink. For Emma Vale only. Some families are built by blood, and some are built by the people who fight to stay. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes loyalty and love can survive any war. More powerful stories of kings, queens, betrayal, and second chances are waiting for you here. And before you go, tell me in the comments, if you were Olivia, would you trust Adrian Vale again? Or would some betrayals never be forgiven?